Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your week ahead taroscope with me, Raphael from Reydiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, share, and if you should so choose and it resonates, hit that subscribe button. For those of you that are continued subbies, you know I absolutely love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to have some much needed time off. It's really refreshed and rejuvenated my bones. I hope it shows. Thank you so much. With that said, I am back open for business. If you would like to book a personal reading, you can do so on the website address below. If you haven't got your copy yet, the retrograde survival kit is half price, $19.99 versus $39.99. It will go up on the day that Mercury goes retrograde. We already have Uranus currently retrograde, and there's going to be a whole bunch more, so it will help you for all of those with a strategy and all the rest of that. With that said, I would like to bless all of my decks of cards with all forms of love, light, peace, prosperity and abundance, and I pray that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise, and they help you on your path to your highest vibrational good. So with that said, this week your word, what I actually saw in my vision when I went into my intuition, what I could see was a beautiful silver basin, and it had water in it, and the light was shining down on it, and it was throwing off all sorts of reflections. And the message was really clear this week. What it was actually saying to you is sometimes a reflection is distorted, right? This is why when we see the moon card in tarot, when you see various myths and fairy tales and stuff, they talk about the shadow side or the dark side and stuff like that. Sometimes it's not necessarily that we're seeing. Sometimes when we're seeing a reflection, it's a distortion of what we are. It's a distortion or an illusory version of ourselves. So this week, I don't know why, but I get this feeling that a lot of you are about to give yourselves a hard time, right? So what I want to say to you is this week, when things come up and they are challenging, or you kind of think to yourself like, oh shit, where did this come from? Or how is this shaped up in this way? What I want you to do is take a moment, take a step back, and remember that it is a reflection of who you are. And what is a reflection? It's a reversal of yourself, right? So when you raise this hand, that one raises technically its right hand, right? It's not another person, it's a reflection. But a reflection is a distortion of who you are, right? And I'll give you, and actually the moon isn't a great example because, the moon is light and it's bright, I love the moon. She has, I love the goddess Luna, I call her. So that's probably a bad example because she reflects the sun's light, right? But in terms of like at nighttime, as a perfect example, when you see a reflection on a puddle, it's all distorted and weird and gangly and stuff. It's not. And this is what I want you to know this week. When you see something, you think, oh shit, maybe that's because of who I am. It's a reflection and therefore a distortion of who you are, right? It's not showing you who you are. So just know that. So your destiny card for the week ahead is the Death card. I laugh because if you haven't seen it, check out the weekly general overview. This means that you have your finger on the pulse. You are ready to let something go. And the fact that you've got the reflection, right, or the distortion, this is time for you to lay to rest any of these illusions. Any illusions about who you are, any illusions about your life, any illusions about who somebody presents themselves to be. Right, this is really, really important. You can hear that, this often happens when something is coming through that's really important. It tends to, get intense. You guys have been with me long enough by now. I don't need to explain. But yeah, this week something in your life is coming to an end. There's a transition or an ending, or even a death of some sort that's coming to you this week, Sagittarius, and it relies on you realizing that something no longer resonates with who you are. Right, you're allowed to change, you're allowed to evolve. Excuse me, the direction is the Page of Cups, right? So something that you're creating, something that you're working on, it might be something that you've already made quite a lot of headway with. You might decide this week that actually, that path is that path is distorted, right? It could be that you, because the Page of Cups is about creating things. It's about your intuition, your inspiration, in difference to the Page of Wands, right? The Page of Wands is the actual doing of creating something, whereas the Page of Cups is more about the dreaming it up and the, you know, like being in that creative sort of energy and, you know, painty, or, you know, it's just that creative sort of energy. And the fact that you've got this as your direction, it kind of says to me, so for any of you that know a Scorpio child, why? You've got the Death card, Scorpio, and you've got the Page of Cups, a water sign child. This is a week for you to check in with your Scorpio children. Anybody that has a child that is a Scorpio, that has a heavy leaning towards Scorpio, check in with them. It might be that they are having some frustrations of how to communicate themselves this week. You could find that they really struggle with that. For you yourself, right, if you've got a Scorpio child, be sure to talk to them this week. Open up a dialogue, even if they get ratty. You know, make a point of opening up a dialogue with them. In fact, for any of you that have any water sign children, this week you want to check in with them because they could really be feeling it. Now, on a personal note, the direction is basically, it feels for me like something that you are creating or something that you've already created. You might have put a lot of effort into this. I'll give you an example. You might have even gone as far as to buy a domain name, and then you think, oh, actually, do you know what? Something about that needs to be altered, or something about it just doesn't fit anymore. For some of you, this is about something that you've already created, a path that you've already tread, and you're ready to give it up. There's nothing wrong with that. A very, very similar message to Scorpio, actually. You know, theirs was more about changing their mind, whereas yours is about letting something go, right? Yours is about letting whatever it is that you've already created, whatever it is that just no longer resonates. It's time for you to let go. It's time for you to phase it out. Then you got the Lord of Shadows, right, which in this deck is the Death card as well. So you got a double hit of this Death card energy. There is definitely an ending coming to you this week. There is definitely the end or the perishing of something. This might very well relate to something in your spiritual life. You could be having a deep, really deep insight into your spiritual beliefs, your spiritual outlook, and saying, wow, that actually doesn't resonate with me anymore. You could be looking at something you've created, something that you've signed up to. It could be a course of study for some of you that you've already gone, you know, maybe 3/4 of the way, and then you decide to quit, and everyone's like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, what feels right to you. Give yourself license for that. And if something is throwing stuff up, right? And look at this, because the Death card, and here's the beauty of it. I'm going to go on a rant here. So again, sorry, this is probably going to be quite a long video, but I heard something recently that really provoked a lot of thought in me. And interestingly enough, this month I'm going to be starting a series on the correlation between the major arcana and the zodiac. So stick out for that. It's going to be great. Death is the final liberation, right? We, as human beings, we see it as this awful, fearful, scary thing. It's like, oh my gosh, you know, because there's so much unknown to it. Whereas if we could switch that vibration and welcome it and say, actually, you know what? It's the natural end to whatever this is. They are, who is, I am, right? There is a natural conclusion coming to an end here. And it feels for me, because the pages are very similar to aces, something about you, something about your personality that you used to think, that you used to see about yourself is now coming to a close. There's an aspect of yourself that's going to die this week, right? I don't mean like a literal death, you know, I mean like an aspect of self. And sometimes that's really painful. On the other side of it though, what you're going to realize is, shit, you know what, damn, that was my ego. Or, you know, you could be having an ego death this week. You could be seeing what works, what things you've created that you're so attached to that you realize that they're actually making you unhappy. Good example, I remember watching a film years ago where this girl, she goes and she wants to be a ballerina, and that's all she's ever wanted to be her whole life. And then when she starts to sort of live a bit of life, she kind of has this realization, and she's like, I actually never wanted to do this. This is like my mum's dream. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's like a whole thing for her and a whole thing for her mum, and you see that, like, this death moment where, you know, that dream that she's been chasing, that path that she's been creating, walking for so long, just suddenly dies, and she's like, no, this isn't for me, this isn't what I want, this isn't where I see my life going or heading. You could be having that moment this week, and remember that moment of, oh well, you know, if I'm not this, then who am I, and then that means I won't exist as I am. It's a reflection, it's a distortion. You can let it go, and ultimately, what does death offer? It offers liberation. All right, so this is going to be a really intense week for you guys. It's going to, I mean, if it's not too personal, please let me know in the comments how it shapes up. I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Trust yourself, know what is you and know what is not you. All right, this week, be kind to yourself, and when you feel that, and when you feel and see that something is coming to a close, just let it come to a close. Let it come to its natural end. All right, I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Take care. See you soon.